Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and yours, and welcome to another edition of the Bark Tank presented by Sugardale. Not in the home office today, in the actual office today, the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea for Christmas here after the Browns' tough loss to the Bills in Week 16, 23-20. Hi, it's Andrew Siciliano. Coming up, Max Starks, the former offensive lineman and Pro Bowler for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who does their radio, also does ESPN games, and man of many seasons. Max Starks will join us. I promised Max I would not wear a blue wig and yell at him. He will break down what the Browns have in store for them as Myles Garrett goes for the sack record coming up in Week 17 of the Browns, obviously, trying to ruin the Steelers' Christmas at Huntington Bank Field. There's a lot to break down from the Browns' loss to the Bills. I really want to start, though, with Quinshon because, honestly, my heart broke for the young man, as did Nathan's when we saw it happen. It happened right in front of us where second quarter, ball from Shedeur in the flat. He got hit immediately by Matt Milano. Ball was on the ground. They picked it up. It was blown dead as it should have, but touchdown or run back, that wasn't the story. The story was Quinshon's leg went in a direction it should not have gone, and you saw it immediately. And you just felt sick. You just felt sick for the young man. His season is over. He's going to have surgery. It's a broken leg and a dislocated ankle. And Quinshon is going to be on the mend, and he will be back better than ever, no doubt, next season. I could bore you with stats, 805 yards. I really did think he was going to get to 1,000 and pass Nick Chubb's record for the most rushing yards by a Browns rookie. That was 996. I had no doubt he was going to pass William Green at 887. Jim Brown, Trent Richardson, Nick Chubb were the ones that he was trying to jump. As it stands, he ends with the fifth best rookie rushing total in Browns history. Stats don't tell the story, though. You knew he was going to get yards. The story of Quinshon Judkins is the energy, the outlook, the juice that he brought to not only the running back room, but the offense as a whole. He is an energy giver, not a taker. And you need more of those guys. You see it. You saw it in the Titans game when he got caught from behind inside the 5. You thought he was gone on that screen pass. And after he got caught from behind at the 2-yard line, that was right in front of the dog pound. He got right up in the face of the dog pound, and he was yapping, and he was excited, and he brought energy to not only the dog pound, but the entire building and the entire offense. That's the Quinshon that this building has come to love and that I know you listening and watching and rooting for the Browns have as well. So Quinshon on the mend. He'll be okay. Can't wait to see what he does in year number 2. All right. You want to go through the rest of the rookie class? Let's do it. Harold Fannin has 70 receptions. 70. 7-0. That is a new Browns record for rookies. He is the team's leading receiver. And coming into the game, the Browns had 2,500 snaps. 2,500 from rookies, which led the NFL. The Browns are also going to become the first team since the 1968 Buffalo Bills to have a rookie lead them in passing yards, in receiving and receptions, and in rushing yards. That is absurd. And throw in Carson Schlesinger. Carson Schlesinger is going to lead him in tackles. Let's look at his numbers yesterday. Carson Schlesinger, 12 tackles, his 7th game with double-digit tackles, and his 6th consecutive. That stretch of 6 consecutive games with at least 10 tackles is the longest by anyone of the NFL this year. Not rookie. Any defensive player in the NFL this year. I'm going to pound the table. He should be an All-Pro. And back to Fannin, he not only caught a touchdown, he ran for a touchdown as well. I said back in July and August that the story of the season, and you certainly hoped it would be more than 3 wins, would be told through the eyes of the rookies, and they've all been great. As for the quarterback, I thought Shedeur Sanders played reasonably well. I say reasonably because there's always room for growth. He made a lot of plays. He was efficient. They moved up and down the field. They stayed out of third downs, especially the first couple of possessions. That touchdown to Fannin, great play design. Did it look like something that 49ers ran with Kyle Juszczyk a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, it did. Who cares? It worked. It was a touchdown. And then Fannin, as well, with the rushing touchdown as the up back there with Aiden Huntington also in the backfield. You got to love that. He's not only local, he's great. And Harold Fannin is a huge building block, and Carson Schlesinger obviously said what I said. Okay, back to Shedeur. There's a lot of good there. A lot of good. What Nathan and I pointed out in the broadcast during the game, he's had trouble getting balls tipped at the line a few times. One of them led to an interception. It's just about getting that arm a little bit higher. You know, talk to any quarterback coach. Trying to get something off the top shelf. Sometimes you always got to remember that. They have guys that follow the eyes, and they have guys that get their hands up around some Shelby Harris. You know what? The Bills have a 6'7" Dayon Walker. Maybe I'll post the photo. Gabe behind the camera, by the way, doing the 6'7" thing. In Mobile at the Senior Bowl last year, when we were all down there, I interviewed Dayon Walker, and there is a photo of me and the 6'7" Dayon Walker side by side in Mobile. He's a very, very soft-spoken young man, but the picture tells 1,000 words. He doesn't have to say it. He's tall. I'm not. Maybe we'll post that. Maybe that'll be your stocking stuffer. Back to Shedeur. Shedeur played well. He truly did. In the end, you know, I thought maybe hunting a little downfield rather than taking the checkdowns. The rush got after him, and he lives to see another day. But you're certainly seeing progress and steps and movement forward every day. That's all you want. All you want. He said during the week, I need to find the easy completions. I need to find the short, the layups. Basically, he did that. He did that. And so hats off to him. Thought he was good on the podium afterwards as well. Your quarterback is not going to go, no, I disagree with the decision to go forward on fourth down. Right? Show me a quarterback that ever says, no, I don't want the ball. No, I don't want it. No, punt. Let's punt. I've never met one. Ever. And never will, by the way, because they don't exist. If your quarterback is the guy that says, no, I think we should punt. Let's punt. Then he shouldn't be your quarterback. So if you could find that guy, go ahead. Send him my way. Shedeur continues to grow, and he gets a couple of more opportunities now against the Steelers and then against the Bengals Week 18 down in Cincinnati. And finally, Myles Garrett. I really thought he was going to get it. I wanted him to get it for a number of reasons. Let's get it over with. Number one, and Myles is the best, and let's sack Josh Allen. He had sacked Josh once in 2022 when the Browns had played the Bills in that weird Bills home game in Detroit. Buffalo came out as they had come out, as other teams have come out recently as well, with one intention, and that is prevent Myles from getting to Josh Allen. They didn't have to throw the ball in the first half because they were running right through the Browns with James Cook on the ground. Didn't have to throw it. When James Cook's getting 100 yards in the first half, you don't have to throw the football. Not necessary at all. And when they were throwing the football, they were moving the pocket away from Myles every single snap. When they were running the football, they put a tight end on that side, and usually he was lining up on the right against the left tackle Deion Dawkins. They would put at least one tight end, sometimes two, and they were running counters and cutbacks to the weak side. So they were running away from him every single time. And when they had to throw, like I said, ran away from him, moved the pocket every single time. There were no straight dropbacks. I mean, at least not the first half. In the second half, when the game got a little more interesting, Myles had some opportunities. Josh Allen got the ball away. The one that Myles did get, it was exactly like Chicago, in which we're like, wait a minute, who gets the sack? I know Ian Eagle on TV said, Myles Garrett, because Ian's awesome, but it wasn't Myles' sack at first. Clearly, Mason Graham got there first, and Nathan and I are like, we don't know. And much like Chicago, the official NFL scoring system, I told you about that last week, did not post who had the sack. It didn't for a while. In this game, it didn't change it until the third quarter. The third quarter. Like a half hour later. And then Mac Robinson on the ones and twos with an odd Christmas jacket earlier in the afternoon pointed to the TV, it says 22. And then all of a sudden we get the note from Browns PR on the press box. Yep, they've changed it. They gave him a half sack. I wanted him to do it in 15 games because TJ Watt did it in 15 games. But here's a message to any Steeler fan in your life. Potentially, maybe you guys have to break bread over the holidays. It happens. I know, deal with it the best you can. If they say, well, TJ Watt did it in 15 and Myles did it in 16, assuming he gets it in 16, just remind them, and you can go to my Twitter page, @Andrew Siciliano, shameless plug. I took the research from Aaron Schatz the man who invented DVOA, one of the kings of analytics. Myles Garrett had nearly 200 fewer pass rush snaps than TJ Watt. 200, 183 to be specific, and about 130 fewer than TV star Michael Strahan. So, yeah, I mean, that does matter. It truly does matter. By the way, TJ, great job doing that in 15, truly. He got his sack 22.5 in week 18 in the second quarter when he did it a few years ago. However, it was game 15 for TJ. All right. Speaking of the Steelers, when last I saw this week's guest in the Bark Tank, we were limping through the bowels of Soldier Field, Chicago, and neither of us could feel our feet. The Browns had just lost to the Bears in Week 15, and Max Starks was there calling the game for ESPN Radio. And I look at Max, and I'm going, dude, is that like a football injury? Is that why you're limping? You never know. Respectful. And I said, or is that because your feet, like my feet, are so cold and I don't have any feeling in them that I can't walk? And Max said, it's the cold. Max, how are your feet?
My feet are good now, Andrew. And yeah, we had to suffer through that. They advertised that there were little heaters below the desk, but it was obviously a fallacy completely. And that garage door opening that,
oh my God,
that seemed to have just trapped nothing but wind, and that 4-degree weather was just, it was brutal. That was a brutal day in Chicago.
Yeah, if anybody has a storage unit, or if like you've been walking down the street in New York and the bodegas you see with like the garage doors, you know, or in front of the, you know what I'm saying, on the streets of New York or any major city, those steel garage doors that they pull down when they close up shop and go home for the day, that's what we had as the window down to the field in these broadcast booths. And it's not like a window. It was just a door, and then you had to open the garage door. It was cold. It was like negative 15 with the wind. It's okay. We love our jobs. We go to football games. We're not complaining. I'm happy to hear that your feet are okay. You were indoors this past week for the Steelers and the Lions. There was a little bit going on in that game. Let's work backwards. Let's start at the very end. Max, you know I am a Browns fan, not a Steelers fan. I don't know about the way that Carl Cheffers made the announcement, but I do think it was offensive pass interference there on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I agree. There was a clear push-off when he came on the comeback route. He went, pushed Jalen Ramsey back, then came back towards the football. Then he was stopped short. The flag was thrown immediately before the lateral happened. So therefore, the OPI had happened before the touchdown was finished the sequence, or whatever, however you want to do it, because he did complete the toss to Jared Goff, and Jared Goff did get into the end zone for the score. But you're right. The way that it was explained was a little bit choppy and muddled, and they spent a while discussing how that was going to, I guess, how the mechanics of that worked. And so he should not have said that the touchdown is good at the beginning, right? He should have said that, you know, hey, it's offensive pass interference. The touchdown doesn't happen.
As my guy Ian Rappaport said on Good Morning Football today, lead with the news. Lead with the news.
Yeah.
All right, game's over. Yeah. Game's over. Then you want to work backwards, that's fine. But to go, it is a touchdown, but probably not the way to do it, especially when you're talking to Lions fans. Now, a couple of seconds before that, the Isaac Tesla PI. Look, it's a pick play. Every team runs those pick plays. I don't think they needed to throw that flag, but on the coaching point, Max, you know this. You tell the rookie receiver, or any receiver, but especially the rookie, dude, make yourself available to the quarterback. All you got to do is turn your shoulders a little bit. Look back at your QB. Give some kind of indication that you're expecting a pass. If you do that, they're not going to throw the flag.
Yeah, correct. And what was funny was they ran a couple of those in the game earlier. The Steelers actually went to the referees, complained about Tesla specifically running the pick and not looking at the football. And so they kind of let the other ones go. Now, granted, they called Darnell Washington one on us, into Darnell Washington. And that one I felt like wasn't because DJ Reed fell down because he ran into a brick wall, which was Darnell Washington. A lot of guys have fallen running into Darnell Washington. They just assumed it was a big guy. It's almost like the Shaq rule, right? If you're running through and Shaq's running through, you run into him, you figure it has to be a blocking foul on Shaq type of deal. I felt like that's what that was for Darnell Washington. And in that moment, you're absolutely right. The coaching point that people are like, oh, that wasn't a pick. I was like, yes, if you don't pretend like you're going to catch a pass, it is called a pick, not a rub. Because, right, rub is the legal word, pick is the bad word. And so that becomes a pick when you don't look at the football. That was something I had to learn as a jumbo tight end when I played, and we ran a couple of routes with Hines when I was in the formation or in the route itself. You have to look like you're going to catch a pass and just kind of body block a guy. So you're absolutely right. So that's why they threw that flag in that instance.
Talking to Max Starks here, the former Steeler offensive lineman, Super Bowl champion, now does a great job in their broadcast booth up there with Rob King, and does college football games. It does other ESPN radio NFL games other than the Steelers. Max, when last we saw you guys, it was week 6. Browns had just come back from London, jet lag, bus trip. I mean, it was a whole thing. And the Steelers were running a lot of 6-0 linemen and Darnell Washington. In essence, it's 7 guys out there. Let's run the football. How different, if at all, is this offense now schematically from the one we saw week 6?
Yeah, we've gotten more efficient with it. We still run with Spencer Anderson, our extra O-lineman. We still use Darnell Washington. We still deploy those guys in a lot of different ways. And in the Lions game, I think that's probably one of our most effective running games last week, and ran for 230 yards. We popped 2 big 45-yard runs with Jaylen Warren in that game for touchdowns, and the run game was running very efficiently from that aspect. But I think what has progressed off of that is we do have a more sophisticated passing game off of that, and you're starting to really see the offense start to kind of gel. When you saw it, it was still kind of new. We had just started doing it, I believe, in that Minnesota game before the bye, before we saw you guys when we were in Ireland. And we still hadn't figured out the mechanics. And I think it was still kind of wonky. Now, because we ran it, because we've gotten comfortable with it, everybody kind of knows what their roles are. It's now more fluid. And you see a lot more teams in the NFL kind of using that jumbo-style package. I mean, the Chargers use it with Scott Matlock. Baltimore uses it with Patrick Ricard. Even though they want to try and make him a fullback because they gave him a smaller number, he's still an offensive lineman. He's still, if you did not have him in that role, he would be in a 3-point stance. Like he's 2 cheeseburgers over a 2-point stance. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where this league has kind of shifted in that respect.
Yeah, and Scott Matlock in L.A. is truly a defensive tackle. He was a defensive tackle, played in the college all-star game that I called at the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago as a defensive tackle from Boise, and then he started playing both ways there with the Chargers. The thing with the offense, though, that has changed the last few weeks is their ability to hit strikes downfield. Really, you didn't see that much. You saw the sluggo to DK where he beat Tyson Campbell week 6 when we were in Pittsburgh, but you saw it get stagnant, Max. You saw a lot of back shoulder stuff, ball getting out quickly, not stretching the field. I mean, they had like 1 or none or how many ever passes that were 20 or more air yards completed over like the span of a month. You get the Fire Tomlin stuff going, and then all of a sudden 3 weeks ago, something changed. Max, what changed?
I think the guys finally decided who they wanted to be. You know, I think that's always, you always wonder what that kind of, cliche is come to Jesus moment, but really the reality comes to accountability moment, right? Where you have that meeting, you have that closed door session with your unit, with your side of the ball, or with the team in general. I think the guys just finally just had enough and said, hey, if you're not going to do your job, you don't need to be in here, right? Trying to get on the moving train. If you don't want to be on the train, get off the train. If you want to get on it, you've got to do the extra. One of the things I thought that was very telling, after that Buffalo game, I don't know if you remember, Aaron Rodgers came in the post-game press conference and was like, hey, if we have film session, you need to be at the film session. Some guys are not at the film session. Well, I think guys have now showed up to the film session. I think that's why you're seeing more deep strikes. That's why I think you're seeing the middle of the field kind of be tested a lot more with the route concepts. some of the quick game that Aaron likes to run. And defensively, they just said, who's tired of getting run on? Who's tired of being an embarrassing defense? And even without TJ Watt the last couple of weeks, the run defense has been awesome. I mean, you're talking about holding down Devon Achane to an insignificant amount of yards, considered that the Miami at the time was averaging 192 yards a game rushing in that 4-win streak span. And then you go and take on the number one offense in the entire NFL in Detroit, and you held them to 15 total rushing yards.
That's absurd, those two.
That's an absurd number against Jahmyr Gibbs, arguably, top 3 running back in this league.
Sure.
So they've definitely taken it upon themselves to take pride in their work, and it's showing in the last 3 weeks.
All right, let's get to Aaron and Miles here. So when the Browns were there week 6, they didn't get to the quarterback. That game was wonky. Not blaming it on jet lag, but Dylan Gabriel and the tackles were overwhelmed, and the Steelers brought the house. Let's flush that one out. Much different situation now. Shadour's the quarterback, but Miles is now gunning for that 22.5. He is half a sack away from the 22.5, the record that TJ and that Michael Strahan held. Don't know if you've watched the tape yet for the Browns and the Bills, but they had a tight end over Miles every single time. They gashed him on the ground in the first half. They didn't have to throw the ball in the first half at all. So there were no sack opportunities. But every time Josh Allen did throw the ball, they moved the pocket to the right. Everything was a rollout away from Myles Garrett. There were times as well in the run game where they would put 2 tight ends over Garrett. They would go 12 personnel, and then they would run counters or cutbacks or just weak side runs away from Myles. Nothing was at him whatsoever. Myles Garrett has never sacked Aaron Rodgers, Max. He has spoken openly with a smile on his face about how badly he would like to sack Aaron Rodgers. What do the Steelers do this week so that Aaron doesn't get himself in that highlight video?
I think one of the things that they're going to do, and so he doesn't have his other former Green Bay Packer moment with a record being set, right, like Favre and Strahan, is you have to do exactly what you said. You've got to be able to run a lot of successful run plays, limit the opportunities for 3rd and longs where we would normally pass, and make sure that you're in the 3rd, the medium 3rd, the short range, so you have everything available to you. And it's going to be chip blocks. It's going to be additional linemen. I mean, we're going to treat Myles Garrett just like we treat TJ Watt, right? And what every other team treats TJ. You've got to have multiple guys affecting him, and you have to funnel his pass lane. And, we have, let's face it, we have Dylan Cook, our 4th string left tackle at left tackle. Now, he's played great the last 2 weeks, and he's gone against some good players, but he still gave up a sack to Aiden Hutchinson last week. He didn't give Bradley Chubb anything, but that's the risk you're running against, because let's face it, Myles Garrett is a different breed. And Myles Garrett is a power rusher that has relentless effort and relentless energy. So you don't want to put a guy in there and essentially it becomes a bench press contest. I was like, you're going to lose against Myles Garrett. So you're going to need to have Darnell Washington chipping or blocking along with Dylan Cook. You're going to need Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell running chips when it is open side, weak side, and Myles gets in that cocked four-point stance. You're going to need to do something to take something off of him, then prevent that. And I don't think we necessarily are going to have to roll away from him and use moving pocket, but the quick game and multiple bodies is what's going to be key to stopping him and to preventing him from taking that record in Acrisure Stadium.
And Aaron doesn't want to get hit. Not that any quarterback wants to get hit, please don't get me wrong. But there was a moment in your game on Sunday where late in the game, he threw it away rather than taking a sack and letting the clock run. He's getting rid of that ball. And part of that is age. Part of that is being wise and having great pocket awareness. But I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback that's like, no, you're not going to sack me. I'm just going to – I will throw it at the feet of an O-lineman if it means avoiding getting sacked.
Yeah. Well, when you're 42 years old and you've seen a lot of sacks and you're brittle, and he's already battled through a wrist injury that he missed 0 time for. He knows what his mortality is. He understood what that first 4 plays of his New York Jets career looked like. And right now he's got an opportunity to do something special this season with the Steelers, so he's not risking any mortal harm, and that's what it would be if Myles Garrett gets to him. It is mortal harm. So, yeah, you're going to get rid of the football, and that's what's also allowed him to play every game this season. He has not missed any significant time. In the season, yes, Mason Rudolph's gone in and had some of the end time games, but the guy started every game this season, and that's a feat for somebody 40 plus that doesn't happen that often. So he wants to keep that intact.
Yeah, and when he did get hurt, he was on a sack, as you said. He got blindsided by Joey Bosa there and took the ball away, and he got hurt, and he has been able to battle back because at that time against the Bills, as you said, he walked up to the podium afterwards, and I think a lot of people thought it was over. Like, he's hurt. This team is losing. They were chanting what they were chanting. They were booing Renegade, and it was over. Clearly, it is not over, and we're set to meet again week 17. Max and I got a lot of travels here. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you and the family. Be safe travels, and cannot wait to see you week 17 in Cleveland, my friend.
In a warmer booth, too.
Hey, we keep our windows open, but our heat works. It was not warm yesterday against the Bills, but our heat worked. It's a much, much healthier work environment, my friend.
Absolutely. Happy holidays, Andrew.
Thank you, you too. The great Max Starks, everybody. And if you're wondering, Andrew, why didn't you ask about number 4 and the dude with the blue wig? Because we're recording this on Monday afternoon, and at this hour, looking at my watch, we have no decision or anything from the league office in regards to discipline or any kind of announcement as to that incident. We all agree, and Max and I talked about it off the air. I'm not talking out of school here, that it was unfortunate. You can't do that. You can't put your hands on fans, and for anyone saying, oh, they should have kicked him out from New York. Yeah, I mean, I understand your argument, but there was no flag on the play. If there was a flag on the play and there's an illegal hit and there's a 15-yard penalty, has the league ever gotten in your ear and gone like okay, that's an ejectable offense? Yeah, that's a different conversation. This is this gray area here, and that wasn't going to happen. Now, if it had been a far more violent incident, right, and there are multiple angles as actually what happened, not defending it at all, then maybe the league gets involved and maybe the authorities get involved at that point. But either way, let's do What's Sizzling, presented by Sugardale, in which we go around the AFC North. This is a division game this week, so we just checked the box on the Steelers. As for the Ravens, they no longer control their destiny when it comes to the postseason. And I did that, use the phrase, control their destiny, just to get it out there to set up the fact that I hate that phrase, and it doesn't make sense. Destiny, by definition, is predetermined. Fate is predetermined. You cannot control your own destiny. By definition, it is uncontrollable. It is already decided. That said, the Ravens did control their destination. And their destination, if they had won all 3 games, would have been to stay at home as division champion and host a playoff game wild card weekend. They no longer control their own destination because they lost on Sunday night, a game in which Lamar Jackson took a knee to the back late in the second quarter, and 3-time Browns preseason captain Snoop Huntley had to finish the game. The Ravens lost that game to the Patriots. Patriots are in the postseason, and now the Ravens need to win out, and the Steelers need to lose a game, like to the Browns potentially week 17. So in his 19th season with the Ravens, John Harbaugh has his team now under 500 and having to answer questions both Sunday night and Monday about why it was Keaton Mitchell starting that final drive for the Ravens when they turned the ball over and not Derrick Henry on the field. Zay Flowers with the fumble. Caleb Von Chason, who we saw up in New England when the Browns lost up there to the Patriots in Foxborough, playing well. He was the one who forced the fumble. As for the Bengals, good to see T. Higgins on a personal level okay and back on the field. T. Higgins had flown midweek to Pittsburgh last week to get checked out and get a second opinion on his most recent concussion. Imagine that, if you could, again, on a human level, flying somewhere to see a doctor to tell you whether or not it's okay to play football or whether or not you're going to suffer a permanent brain injury. That has to be disconcerting for anyone, especially this time of the year, especially when it's your livelihood. He was good to go. The Bengals won, and they got a big win over the Dolphins, who have now lost consecutive games to AFC North teams on Monday night to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and then on the short week back at home to the Bengals. Joe Burrow looked like the old Joe Burrow, and at least for now, things seem normal in Cincinnati. That is the rest of the AFC North. What's sizzling? Presented by Sugardale, the division that will this year put only one team in the postseason. It was not too long ago that we were saying this is the best division of football. 3 teams could get in, and that was something that happened. Not anymore. On a final note, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. It was the final night of Hanukkah Sunday night. If Hanukkah is the holiday you celebrate, hope the final night was a fantastic night for you and yours, and that everyone has a great holiday week. Christmas and anything you are celebrating with family, be nice to each other. As I said at the end of the broadcast on Sunday, it's that time of the year to be thankful, be grateful, spend it with your family, give everybody a nice hug, and look forward to what hopefully is a great 2026. The people to thank here in the Browns building do not change, especially our producer who is right now standing on the other side of this camera inside the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. That is the great Gabe Clore. You should be nice to him as well when you watch CBD and you see him in the background, or you hear him sometimes, get on the microphone and add to that show. It needs more voices. It needs people like the great G-Man. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I'm Andrew Siciliano. We will see you back at Huntington Bank Field on Sunday when Myles Garrett gets the record and the Browns beat Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers.